The name in the model says Grand Tour, but is this 7-seater MPV ready to give the first-class experience without the first-class cost? Let's find out. Hey guys, Jamil here from AutoIndustriya, and what I have for you today is the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. And yes, Chery has been busy repackaging and updating their vehicles to fit certain buyer perspectives here in the Philippine market. And now they have this as their 7-seater crossover for 1,188,000 pesos. Now, before anything else, please make sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you can follow us here at AutoIndustriya.com. Now, much like the Chery Tiggo Cross, the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour isn't exactly all new to begin with. If anything, if it does look familiar, yes, this is very similar to the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro, but with a few differences, especially here in front. Now, you don't have a lot of chrome on the grille. This one has more of a piano black with the Chery logo right in it. Don't have ADAS, so you do have a blank space right over here. But you still get around LED headlights and LED DRLs for the front end of this MPV. Now, you also roll with 18-inch wheels wrapped in Cooper tires, which is a reputable brand when it comes to the rubber. You also have cameras up here in the side mirrors forming your 360-degree camera. We'll see more of that later on. You have a bit of chrome here at the top, katana-style accents here down below, and you also have 212 millimeters of ground clearance for the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. Mind you, the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour has a pricing of the likes of an Expander or a BRV when it comes to an MPV. But in terms of size, this is over 4.7 meters long, which means it's a bit bigger than the likes of the Sorento, the CRV, and it's almost the same size as a Fortuner. So that means you have lots of cargo area inside. But let's check out the back end of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour first. You have clear lenses right over here, red LED taillights. You have the Tiggo badge here. It doesn't have the Grand Tour on the right side of the tailgate, but it keeps things simpler, keeps things cleaner. You also have, well, I'm not much of a fan of this, but it has fake tailpipes underneath. Now, you do have parking sensors right over here, and this is your rear camera. Now, opening this one up, it has a power tailgate. So, once you open it up, you have about 12 inches of cargo length with all the third row seats up. Now, this one is about 52 inches wide, and before you scruff the ceiling, you have about 30 inches of width. So how do you fold the third row seats? Well, only need to do this tab and let gravity do its job. Now, in this configuration, you have about 38.5 inches of cargo length. But right over here, it's about 39.5, so you do have to take note of the bump right over here because of the cup holders and the chargers from either sides of this tub right over here. But it also has a 60-40 split for the second row seats. So if you fold that one up, it extends to about 70 inches for your cargo needs. Now, in case you need to hide a few personal things, it also has a parcel shelf right over here, which also contains the jack and the early warning devices in case you need it for emergencies. And underneath, you have a donut spare in case you get a flat, which is a good thing for the Tiggo Grand Tour. Now, in case you're wondering what's the reason behind the more affordable pricing for the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour compared to the Tiggo 8, well, it's because of the engine. Now, the Tiggo 8 has a 1.6-liter turbo, and this has a 1.5-liter turbo. It's slightly less powerful, but the main thing here is because of the China AFTA and the regulations. Because under the China AFTA, vehicles under the 1.5-liter displacement will pay lower import taxes compared to those with higher displacements. Hence the reason why this is much cheaper than the Tiggo 8 and the Tiggo Rev. But considering the engine, you don't really lose out a lot because this has a 146 horsepower and 210 Newton meters of torque. It's paired to a 6-speed DCT and it's powering the front wheels. Here in the engine bay, you don't really lose out much either. You see, the engine bay is nicely painted. Acteco, in case you're wondering, is Chery's engine department in China. You also have hood dampers in here, so you don't have to lift the hood by yourself. And look at this engine bay, it's neatly laid out and it's easy for servicing. But that's about it here with the engine of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. Let's check out what's inside. Now, there are two ways to enter the third row of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. One way is by sliding these seats forward and folding these. And the other one, well, it's on the other side and using the slightly tumble function of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. But over on this side, well, you have to do it like this to enter the third row. Now, this is the amount of legroom that you get on the third row of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. It's pretty decent for my size, though you do have to take note that you have to slide the second row seats forward to achieve this amount of legroom. Now, over here you have a few cup holders, you have a 12-volt power outlet on this side, but nothing more, nothing less on this third row. Now, let's step on the second row and see how it feels. Now, the second row of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour looks like this when you have passengers at the third row. You can see that legroom is a bit compromised to make way for the third row passengers. But most of the time, if you're not gonna use the third row of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour, you can slide these seats backward, and that's more like it. You see, this is the amount of legroom that you have on the second row. You also have this amount of headroom when you're at the second row. You also have these armrests right over here with the cup holders. You also have AC vents right over here, a single USB charging port in case you need to charge your devices. You have pockets right over here. Now, the good thing about the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour is that even the middle passenger can have a comfortable time because look at this, it's pretty flat. The transmission tunnel is almost non-existent in this second row. So once you slide over here, yeah, you can still pretty much have a comfortable time. Now, what else can we get from here? You also have these lighting right over here and soft touch panels on the door cards, so you can have a comfortable time inside while you're traveling with the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. Now, let's step in the driver's seat and let's see how it feels. For its price point, the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour packs a lot of features inside, and it actually doesn't feel like its price point when you step inside this 7-seater MPV. I mean, as you can see, you have a lot of soft touch surfaces. You have leather on the armrest, on the seats. They have these perforations right over here, so it remains breathable, especially in hot weather. You have this contrast stitching on the dashboard. You have these silver panels right over here. The steering wheel itself is leather wrapped. It's a D shape and it's nicely stitched as well. On the left side, you have your controls for your cruise control as well as your multi-information display right in the middle. And on the right side, you have the infotainment functions for adjusting the volume and of course for hands-free calling. Here in front of me, we have a digital instrument cluster. It's pretty small compared to its other competitors, but you know, it kind of gives the right information. Like for example, it has the TPMS tire pressure monitoring system. You also have your average fuel economy, for example, and your distance to empty numbers. So you pretty much have all the information that you have in this digital display. You also have a drive mode display right over here that changes its color every time you switch to sport mode and to eco mode. Now we also have this infotainment screen right over here. It has a landscape type display, but also has Apple CarPlay, which is the wired type, but I don't really mind since I like to charge my phone as well as I'm driving. So as you can see right over here, the details are really nice. Now it also has an around view monitor, a 360-degree camera. You pretty much have an augmented view. You see those guys right over here, that's Barney and that's Zach right over there. You know, as we rotate through the Tiggo 8 that's augmented into this monitor, you can see the details are pretty crisp. You also have a front wide view camera and the rear wide view camera. So it's very good, especially when you're maneuvering this 4.7 meter long MPV. Now down below you also have pretty much physical buttons for the infotainment screen. You have the volume functions right over here, the hazard button, hands-free. Down below you have a dual zone climate control system, which is a nice surprise, especially for this price point. It doesn't have the graphics like the Tiggo 8, but it has, rotary controls right over here for adjusting the thermostat, but you have haptic controls for the air circulation, as well as the blower settings for this particular MPV. Now, the shifter, it's pretty much like a BMW actually. You have the park button right at the top, and you also have the reverse, neutral drive, and you have a manual mode in case you want to do the shifting by yourself. You also have a electronic parking brake and an auto brake hold function for the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. Now, what else do we have right over here? These are the drive mode buttons, a bit of empty spaces right over here, the around view monitor. This is not a charging pad, but it's simply, a place where you can place your phone. You have two cup holders right over here. You also have these storage pockets underneath in case you need to store more items. It's really awesome to think that the base is used for this Chery Tiggo Grand Tour is the very same platform that's being used by the flagship model called the Tiggo Rev. And it shows with the way the Tiggo Grand Tour drives. It's very, very quiet inside. It's a lot more refined than, what I experienced with the Tiggo Cross that I reviewed in the past few weeks. It's just a more refined car overall. I mean, Chery has put in a lot of effort in engineering, designing. Also, when it comes to the safety of this platform, I got to see it when we visited, the HQ in China, where they demonstrated a crash test right before our very eyes. So it kind of goes to show that Chery could do that in a much more affordable package with the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. Now, for its price point, this MPV is a lot bigger, it's a lot more powerful, a lot more refined than the smaller 7-seater MPV counterparts, especially coming from Japan, like the Expander Cross and the likes of, the Toyota Veloz. Those are usually in the price point of this Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. And of course, this one has a different suspension setup compared to smaller 7-seat MPVs that have a torsion beam setup at the rear. This one has a multi-link. So it goes to show when you're driving it, it has better road manners overall. I mean, it's much more composed. It's much more, confident in tackling all kinds of road surfaces. Although there is a hint of firmness in its suspension, especially when you're driving around EDSA or those with, rough cement, you can really feel that it's a bit more stiffly sprung than its other MPV counterparts. So that's something to take note of, especially if you're driving it solo. You're gonna feel na medyo may konting tagtag. It feels like you're just driving a 5-seater crossover when you're sitting behind the wheel. You just really feel the 4.7 meter long length when you're actually parking it already. So it's not as wide as you expect it to be. So it feels much like you're just driving a regular crossover when you're driving it around town. As for user friendliness, well, it takes a bit of while to get used to how the wet type dual clutch transmission of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour performs. Because, unlike CVTs and conventional automatics, the wet type dual clutch transmission behaves differently when you're coming from a standstill. Para siyang yung manual transmission where you have to ease off the clutch. You can really feel that happening with the wet type dual clutch transmission of this crossover. But once you get going, it kind of smoothens out as you pick up speed. And speaking of which, the power delivery is pretty good for this turbocharged MPV. On paper, it has 146 PS and 210 Nm of torque, but feels like it's got a bit more. The transmission kind of takes a while to respond, especially during downshifts, but there's always the manual mode if you want a bit more response out of the transmission. But nevertheless, it likes to choose the lowest gear possible. Or I mean the highest gear possible. So you can, save a lot on fuel. Speaking of which, I've been averaging around 9.3 liters per 100 kilometers. So that's a little over 10 kilometers per liter. And I've already covered around 343 kilometers during this test. And I still have around 274 kilometers before I run out of gas. So to explain that, I've been driving around Batangas and here in Manila over that 343 kilometer distance. So it's a mixture of expressways, city roads, and provincial roads. But here in the city, the fuel economy drops to around 7 or 8 kilometers per liter, and that's not bad for a 1.5 liter turbocharged MPV. In the highways, you can even average around 14 while doing 100 kilometers per hour on the expressways. So that's, pretty decent fuel numbers for an ICE MPV. Now, for highway manners, it also has regular cruise control, not the type of ADAS that you would expect from cars like the Tiggo 8, for example, and the Tiggo Rev that has, adaptive cruise control and those blind spot monitoring. So in this package, you don't get things like, the lane keep assist or blind spot monitoring. But you do have 360-degree cameras, and it's still pretty much a good thing when you're maneuvering around the metro with this crossover. So aside from getting used to the characteristics of the wet-type dual clutch transmission, there's really not much to complain about when it comes to the road manners of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour. I find it really comfortable driving this MPV over the metro. Even in the highways, it's nice and composed. And the fuel economy is pretty decent for an MPV of this size. So overall, what do we think of the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour? Well, let's head over to the warehouse and let's wrap this thing up. At 1,188,000 pesos, the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour has a lot going for it. For its price point, it's much bigger, it's more powerful, and if anything, it's a bit more refined than the usual 7-seater MPV offerings here in the Philippine market. It's feature-packed, it's more powerful, and it also has a lengthy warranty period in case you need that peace of mind to convince you to buy this crossover. Now, you still have to get used to the characteristics of the dual clutch transmission, but when you go past that, the Chery Tiggo Grand Tour rewards you with a solid driving experience for the family. But what do you think of this crossover? Is it good or does it need a bit more improvement? Let us know in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Jamil of AutoIndustriya.com. Thank you for watching.